Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of our series Lead with a Vision, hosted by New Jersey Visionary Cyber Leo Club. In a few moments, I'm going to be turning it over to Ishan, but just from my end, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join us. We have an incredible guest today, and I hope you enjoy the session. So without further ado, our host for today, Leo Ishan Malick, will be taking it away.
Hi guys. My name is Leo Ishan Malick, and today we are doing a leadership series, and it's the second episode. And today we'll be talking about Millennial Motivations. And before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to pass it off to Leo Ogis.
Yeah, so really what this series is called Lead with a Vision. And really what we've seen is that's what's lacking in our leadership today. Every single day we have all these sessions, we have all these trainings that focus on leadership. Well, there's no direction to our leadership. And that's what we as Leos want to provide our attendees, our members, maybe other Lions and Leos from across the world that join us for these sessions. We want to hopefully provide each and every one of you with a way to take your leadership skills out of the abstract and use them in a practical way to make an impact on the community and the world at large. And we're hopefully going to be hosting this series in a weekly installation for the next foreseeable future. And we hope you all enjoy this. And I think Ishan, I'm going to turn it back to you so you can introduce our guest for today.
Okay. So our guest speaker today is Leo Lion Brandon Johnson, and he's from La Follette, Tennessee, and was elected to serve as council chairperson by the MD 12 Council of Governors in 2019. He's honored to be the youngest council chairperson and district governor to ever serve Lions Club International. Leo Lion, Brandon Johnson, is a general manager of his family's automotive and tire business. He's received 2 bachelor's degrees and his Master of Business Administration degree from East Tennessee State University. So, as a member of the Campbell County Lions Club, past council Chair Johnson has been a Lion since 2012. He has held many offices within the association, including district governor, multiple district treasurer, multiple district NAMI chair, multiple district public relations chair, and charter club president. And he's also a former Leo. And in recognition of his many services, he's received numerous awards, including becoming a life member of the Texas Lions Camp, Tennessee's Lindsey Jennings Fellowship, Mid-South Lions Dahlstrom Award, Ohio James Coffey's Fellowship, a Massachusetts Lion Eye Research Foundation sponsorship, 4 International President's Leadership Awards, an LCIF Chairperson's Medal, and an International President's Medal. He is also a Progressive Melvin Jones Fellow. Also, in addition to his Lions activities, past council Chair Johnson is active in several professional and community organizations. This includes multiple Masonic organizations, the Rotary Club, and the Sigma Chi fraternity. Johnson was one of the only 3 Lions to ever be appointed by the Tennessee's governor to serve as a commissioner on volunteerism and service.
Good morning, everybody. It is so great to be with you guys. First and foremost, before we get started, I just want to say how proud I am of your Leo Club and you all as a group of young people. I'll guarantee you when I was in high school, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, maybe even 19, I would not have been spending my Sunday morning focused on leadership development. So kudos to you all. I'm incredibly, incredibly impressed by you all, everything that your club is doing. People all across the country and honestly across the globe are watching and inspired by you all constantly. So thank you all for being on here this morning, and thank you all for what you do. We're going to go into the presentation now. And Ishan, can you give me a thumbs up that we can see that?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking today a little bit about Millennial Motivations, old leadership concepts in a kind of new world. We'll kind of go into a little bit more about what that means here in just a moment. So again, my name is Brandon Johnson. Ishan, we're going to have to bring you down here to Tennessee, get you a little bit of redneck education, and let you know we don't pronounce it all fancy like it is La Follette. You're going to have to put a little more Southern twang into your voice, but we'll work with you offline about that. I'm just kidding. But I am the past council chair of Tennessee. For those of you all that do not know what that means, which is honestly the vast majority of people, I had the opportunity of serving as a club president of I was a charter president of my Leo club, then went on and served in some offices at the club level, served as club president, served as zone chair, where I supervised 4 different clubs, served as region chairperson, where I supervised 3 different zones, was elected to the position of second vice district governor, first vice district governor, and then had the opportunity to be elected as council chair. The best way to kind of think about council chair, it's almost kind of the CEO of a state of Lions. So I have 5 districts here in Tennessee that I got to work with this past year. So I'm the immediate past council chair. Really trying times. We had lots of disasters hit Tennessee. We had some nasty tornadoes that tore up a lot of our middle Tennessee area. Nashville, Tennessee, which you all are probably familiar with, was hit by a tornado. So we had lots of work going on with Lions Clubs International Foundation, which I know your club's a big supporter of. And then all of a sudden our friend COVID hit. And so it was a very, very interesting year as council chair. I'll share just kind of briefly, I did work with people in the Council of Governors. So I'm 26 years old. The youngest person other than that was in their mid-40s. The oldest person on the Council of Governors was in their 80s. So all of a sudden, I went from working and leading a district of more than 1,000 Lions to kind of working with a group of 5 individuals who some of them were the same age as my grandparents. And so some pretty interesting kind of leadership tidbits that occurred through that. I am a former Leo and very, very proud. Leo is where I kind of got my roots, and very, very proud to have been a Leo. So I really struggled when Mahesh and Otis asked me to join you all about what exactly I may want to speak about. And I thought about leadership principles from one person, from another, and then all of a sudden I'm kind of a nerd, so I save all of my old high school papers that I wrote. And so I went back and thought about, as a high schooler, what leadership meant to me. And I went back and I found a picture of this individual. Now, many of you all may be looking at this man, and unless you're just really astute students of history, you're probably wondering, who in the world is that person? And so we're going to be talking about him very briefly. If you know, I'd love to see you. I can't see you the chat bar right now, but would love to see you kind of comment in the chat if you can just visually identify who it is. So this is a wonderful American leader. Here's what some folks have called and said about him over the time. Winston Churchill called him the organizer of victory, the last great American. President Harry Truman said that he was the great one of his age. And Tom Brokaw called him the godfather of a generation. Well, if so many people said so many great things about him, why is it that when I show you all his picture, probably the vast majority of people in this conference right now have no clue who he was? Well, this was George C. Marshall. Who in the world was George Marshall? He trained future generals as a military leader like Eisenhower, Bradley, and Patton, who many of you all may have heard about. He was the chief of the staff of the United States Army during World War II. Many would say that he rescued Europe from financial ruin after World War II with his Marshall Plan. Served as Secretary of State, first soldier to ever win the Nobel Peace Prize. And very interesting, was actually named Time's Man of the Year, not once, but twice was Time's Man of the Year. So what we're going to be talking about a little bit today is not so much about him from a historical perspective or the good or bad he may have done as an individual, but some of his leadership traits. And General Marshall wrote about leadership and has been studied by military leaders for his leadership in all kinds of different facets. Some of these leadership traits that we're going to be just kind of briefly glancing over today in our short time together: integrity, Action, selflessness, candor, which is the one that I struggle the most with, preparation, learning and teaching, fairness, vision, and caring. So integrity, doing the right thing all of the time. And these are just going to kind of briefly flash up, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts with you all as someone who's not much older. I will tell you time and time and time again, integrity is one of those things that leads you to success. And I don't necessarily mean financial success. I don't necessarily mean personal success. I mean success in every single way. Integrity of doing the right thing is so important. You're going to find in times in leadership, whether it's at the Leo Club or being an officer or being the treasurer of your Leo Club, that integrity is going to be one of those things that is going to define who you are as a person as much as it is going to define who you are as a leader. Being able to be honest with people and being able to have personal integrity and personal courage is something that you're going to be tested with many times. Many times, as the multiple district Lions Club treasurer, I would be managing a budget of sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'll tell you, as a 24-year-old, when I was multiple district treasurer, there was never and never has been nearly that much money in my bank account. So here, all of a sudden, thousands of Lions across the state of Tennessee are trusting me with this huge sum of money. And if I didn't have some integrity, they wouldn't trust me with that. And I'll tell you, many times that was very, very nerve-wracking, making sure that it was never a concern if I was going to be honest, but making sure that I was transparent in that integrity, making sure that I was showing everyone the books, making sure that I was showing everyone, hey, here's where these dollars and cents are going, and here's how I can back it up, and here's why we were authorized to send out that $50,000 check. Action, mastering the situation. This is one of my favorite kind of leadership tenets. And action is being able to do things when called upon. And I don't simply mean being called upon by a leader. I don't mean that your local Leo Club president picking up the phone and saying, hey, Leo, we need some help. We're going to be doing a roadside organizing, and we're going to clean up trash on the side of this highway this Saturday morning. I don't necessarily mean action and mastering the situation in that way. I mean having action to do the right thing whenever you're called upon. And more than that, action to be a great leader. And not just a great leader, but a great follower. One of those things about just growing, and as you all continue through high school and as you go into college and as you find yourselves participating in things professionally where all of a sudden you're kind of this very small fish in a very large pond, action is going to be one of these things that sets you apart as a leader. Action is going to come down to all of a sudden you know that there needs to be something done in your club and nobody else wants to do it. It is not going to be the fun job. It's not going to be the glamorous job. It's not going to be the job that is going to win you any awards or recognition, but it's going to be the job that has to be done. And if you all find that you can take the action to do those jobs, especially when you're not called upon, and especially when they're the cruddy jobs, you're going to be recognized for your leadership in some way. Selflessness, serving the greater good. Now, when I speak to Lions and Leos, this honestly is the trait that none of you all have an issue with. You wouldn't be here on a Sunday morning listening to some redneck from Tennessee talk about leadership if you weren't passionate about leadership and serving your community. So it's very rare that I need to really talk about this, but I will take just kind of a moment to talk about selflessness and the way it's impacted me. So everybody kind of has this moment where they become a Lion or they become a Leo or they become a servant leader. And for me, it didn't happen as a Leo. I knew what I was doing was important. And I knew what I was doing was helping people, but it never made that life-altering connection for me. I never had that moment that I could say, hey, here is the one individual time where something has happened and my life has just completely changed and my outlook on life has changed. But I'd heard from Lions that I trusted, that they had these kind of moments by investing in our association. They invested their time and their passion and their energy and their effort into our association, and it paid them back by filling something inside them that nothing else could. And for me, that happened when I was actually pretty late into my Lions leadership journey. I was second vice district governor. I was in college at the time. Don't tell my mom, but I was probably dragging in pretty late at night, maybe 2 or 3 a.m. from some kind of party. And I rolled over on my phone, clicked it, pulled up Twitter like all of us do, and was scrolling through and could see a live feed of an area in my district called Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is a big tourist destination. Live, scrolling through Twitter, I could see it on fire. And we'd had some wildfire issues during that time. And this kind of childhood retreat that I had and that generations of my family had was ablaze. People were crying. People were scared. I was an hour or so away, and I was scared. And I rolled out of bed at that time, picked up the phone, called our district governor. Immediately at 3 a.m., we filled out a Lions Clubs International Foundation emergency grant. Very early the next morning, LCIF sent us $10,000 in emergency funds. And within just a couple of days, we actually were able to go online and online fundraise over $50,000 and be some of the first responders helping the survivors and those that were displaced from this wildfire. And my cell phone number had kind of been the one that everyone had been reaching out to and saying, hey, we'd like to make a donation, or hey, we need this, or hey, I need a new pair of shoes. I lost mine in the fire. Whatever, how large or how small their request was, I was kind of being the one that was handling it all. So we were 4 or 5 days into this initiative that was something that as a 22-year-old, I'd never taken on. And I get a phone call one night at about 10 or 11 at night. And I answer it, and I'm not going to lie to you all, I was probably pretty hateful with the lady. I shouldn't have been, but I was tired, and that's no excuse. And I said, yeah, how can I help you? She said, listen, we need some help. Well, okay. Oh, yeah, that's why you're calling me. She said, we've got all of the food that we need. She said, I'm a single mother of 5. We've got all the food we need. Okay. We've got shelter. We've lost everything in this fire, but we're staying at a local hotel. So we've got shelter until we can find someplace else again. Okay. We have shoes, we have socks, we have underwear, we have toiletries. And she kind of went through this very large list of things that they have. And honestly, rather rudely, I kind of interrupted her and I said, ma'am, you've got all this. What can I do to help you? And at that time, she responded and she said, well, listen, she said, that's why I'm calling. Nobody will help me. She said, my youngest child, the one of 5, actually has autism. And because of his autism, he will only eat food if it's pureed in a very, very special way by a special blender. She says, I know that sounds a little odd, but that is the only way that he will eat food. She said, so for these past few nights, not only have we lost everything, but 4 of my 5 children are going to bed with full stomachs and a warm pillow under their head. She said, and my 5th child, the one who needs the most attention, is the one that I can't help because he's crying himself to sleep every single night hungry. So at that time, me and a couple of other campus Lions rolled out of bed, busted it to Walmart, got this lady a blender, went and knocked on her door, and she kind of opened the door and she just cried. And then all of a sudden it clicked to me what selflessness, what service, what Lions was really, truly all about. And it's about being there for people in ways that they need. You see, in our service journey, we don't always know what's best. We may think that our community or those that we want to serve need one thing when it turns out that they need something else, like in this case, a blender. And that's something for me that I'll always kind of remember, and I just like to share that story. So if that kind of aha moment hasn't happened for you yet, just hold tight. It's going to, and it will really change your life. Candor, speaking your mind. This is something that honestly, I probably do a little too often. Mahesh knows me quite well. Otis knows me quite well. I've known Otis since he was a little boy. I went to leadership school with Otis's mother, Anu. Candor has always been something that I have somewhat struggled with because I don't always know when to say the right thing at the right time. You see, us Southerners have a big bad habit for opening our mouth and putting our foot directly into it. But candor is speaking your mind, saying what needs to be said when it needs to be said. The when it needs to be said is something that I kind of struggle with. It is having the kind of courage to stand up and say, hey, listen, Leo Otis, I know you put a lot of work into this program, and it's great. We're getting 50 or 60 people on Sundays at noon, but there's a lot of us that really think we should do it Sundays at 6 p.m. Can we maybe try something new? Candor is being able to stand up and say what's right when it needs to be said. Preparation, laying the groundwork. This is also something that I kind of personally struggle with. I feel like a lot of young adults may struggle with it. However, Otis and Ishan did not struggle with it at all in this call. There was constant communication and logging on before. I was incredibly impressed by how much effort and energy and preparation they put into this call. But preparation is laying the groundwork. And especially as you go through your leadership journey, there are going to be things that hang on your shoulders a lot. For me, I think the biggest thing that I had to be prepared for was my district convention as a district governor. You see, most of our conventions had been pretty small. Honestly, don't tell people in my district, but they're pretty dang boring. We had very little fun. We showed up. We wore these very stuffy blazers. We had pins all up and down the side of our lapel. We talked about stuff. We drolled on and on and on about things that may not even really matter. And we went home. And that was kind of the end of it. And I knew as district governor that I wanted to prepare for something in a different way, that I wanted to have something a lot more fun, a lot more entertaining, a lot more exciting. And so I started putting together this district convention, and we came into a lot of pitfalls. We came into a lot of hard work, but our district convention that would typically bring maybe 80 to 100 people, all of a sudden brought over 250 people from 16 different states. So we're in Tennessee. We had people from as far away as Alaska come and join us. 16 different states flew in. We had this wonderful convention, and we brought in a couple live bands. We had music. We had dancing. We stayed up way too late talking and sharing stories. All of a sudden, this kind of boring, dull district convention that a lot of times we had in the past before turned into this social party full of fun and exciting. We brought in some of the top speakers from across the country to lead topics in leadership. We brought in all kinds of fun things. We had more activities than had ever happened at a district convention. And the only way that was possible, the only way we succeeded was through that kind of high level of preparation. So preparing for everything, whether it's just you personally preparing when you get ready to go to college, or many of you all are already taking college classes, preparing for that class, or whether it's preparing for something in your kind of leadership journey, being prepared and being ready to handle those challenges that life throws at you is so important. Learning and teaching, sharing knowledge. Now, I'm so impressed with this Leo Club. I keep up with you all going and learning through Lions University, and I cannot share how excited that makes me that you guys want to log on and take those courses. But this right here, what we're doing, learning and teaching, sharing the knowledge that we have. See, I'm a very firm believer that because of all of us and different backgrounds and way of life and diversity and orientations and religious preferences, because of all of that, we have so many unique ways to learn from one another and to teach one another. And see, here in the South, especially in East Tennessee, if you walk into an average Lions Club meeting, what happens a lot of times is we all kind of look the same. We all kind of act the same. And unfortunately, we all kind of think the same. And one thing that I think is really beautiful about us having an international association is the fact that we can share knowledge through so many diverse ways, that we can share knowledge in platforms like this and through conventions and through leadership initiatives, that we can get together and learn and teach in a way that's going to challenge people to get outside of their box. You see, I believe the strongest teams are not made up of a group of people who all think exactly the same. That's not the way to win. And I don't mean win some kind of prize, but I mean succeed at whatever your challenge is. The way, in my opinion, you succeed is bringing together people of different backgrounds and walks of life and different experiences and different ages. That way they can learn from one another, teach one another, and ultimately grow as a stronger team. fairness, choosing and rewarding the right people. It was pretty interesting. I shared with you all these were General Marshall, George C. Marshall's leadership traits. One thing that I always found really inspiring about General Marshall is the fact that during the World War II, he actually was one of the least decorated soldiers. He turned down nearly every single award that was offered to him and instead passed that award on to one of the people who reported to him. And I thought that was really interesting. You know, it's really hard as you're in your leadership journey, because instead of a teacher or a principal or a school advisor saying, "Oh, congratulations, Leo, Susan, you've won this," all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in that leadership position where you are the one choosing who is recognized in your clubs. In my college club, in my campus club in college, it was very difficult. I was in a collegiate fraternity. Several of my fraternity brothers were in the campus club. Several people were in my campus club that I really enjoyed. My best friend was in the campus club. And all of a sudden, when you sat down at the end of the day and you had to pick, okay, we have one Melvin Jones Fellowship to give out this year, or we want to recognize one person as Lion of the Month or a Lion of the Year, it became really, really difficult. And you had to kind of take yourself outside of that. And you had to choose and reward the right people, not just for rewards, but there were a lot of times where you have to sit down and say, listen, I'm sorry, you may not be the best person to serve as our club president next year. Or, yeah, I'm club president and I understand that you've been our marketing chairperson for, 2 years, but, you're just not the right person to continue on in this. Vision, focusing on the bigger picture. And this is where a lot of our Lions clubs get lost. A lot of our Lions clubs get involved and you go to a meeting and you present an idea and they say, oh, we've done that before. It doesn't work. It's a garbage idea. They lose vision. They lose vision of what at the end of the day our communities could look like if we were able to complete this service project. Focusing on the big picture is so important. Caring, supporting your troops. And I don't mean that from a military perspective. I mean when you are in a leadership position, and even when you're not, caring for those people that are around you and caring for those people that are subordinates to you and even those that are above you. As a business leader, one thing that we do is every time one of our employees has a birthday, we make sure to celebrate it. We make sure to celebrate and give them extra time off or an extra time at lunch if it is their kid's birthday, for example. We go through and we make sure that if there's something going on with one of the employees that I have, that we're there for them and we care for them and support them. And I'll tell you, when I graduated college with my bachelor's degrees, there were actually more people there from Lions Club than there was in my own family. And I have a really large family. I had Lions drive for hours to come and care for me and to support me. And one really beautiful thing about the world that you all are in this Leo Club environment, and hopefully as you continue on and become a young Lion, you're going to find that some of these Lions are going to care for you like you've never expected. All of a sudden you have 30 extra grandparents and they're sending you Christmas cards and they're calling and they're saying, hey, we remember last Saturday at our meeting, you told us you had a big test. How's it going? Or there was a job opportunity I had about 4 hours away in our state's capital in Nashville. And for 9 months, I actually lived with some Lions Club people that I call my Lions Club mom and dad. They rented me the upstairs of their house. How much more can you care about somebody than opening up your home to them? I have a Lions friend in Texas. His name's Mark Roth. Wonderful, wonderful man. He knows I'm kind of a Lord of the Rings nerd. Often he'll shoot me a text and he'll say, hey, have you seen this? He knows that I like politics and certain politicians, and he'll pick me up a postcard from their birthplace if he passes by there and shoots it to me. My point is, you are going to be so rewarded and so remembered and so respected as a leader if you just care about those that you're leading. All right, now I think we got a couple of minutes to open it up to some questions. Leo, Ishan, do you want to kind of facilitate those? Or Leo Otis?
I can facilitate them.
Great.
So if you all have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. But before we do that, I'd like to recognize. So thank you all for staying for the session. Thank you, Brandon, for joining us. And also, I'd like to recognize past National Director Jenny Ware for joining us all the way from the Midwest, Michigan. I think it's early morning for her. So thank you all for coming. And please make sure if you have any questions, I do think we have a few minutes. Please put those in the chat box for Ishan and Brandon.
Great to see PID Jenny here. Jenny and I were together in Arkansas a few years ago and had a great time with her and her husband. And while we have a quick moment, I will encourage you all, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. You can find me, Leo Lyon, Brandon Johnson. I kind of have a public page there. That way I don't drive my family and friends absolutely nuts with all this Lions Club stuff. I'm on Instagram, Johnson_BT, or my email is BrandonJohnson1994@gmail.com. So feel free to connect with me there if you have any questions or anything offline or anything I can help you with.
I think we have a question here. Why did you want to become a council chair?
I am stupid. No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely just kidding. But, you know, for me, and you all are going to find this a lot as young leaders, there is a lot of negative stigma about young people. A lot of the times it is, oh, we are all entitled. You know, we just want to sit around making TikToks all day and do nothing to benefit our community. You'll see these kind of older curmudgeon lions that notoriously sit at the back of the room and just complain about today's youth. And so for me, whether it was to be a zone chair or a district governor or a council chair, it was in an effort to combat that. It was in an effort to say, listen, we are young people and here's what we can do. So in my mind, being involved in these Lions leadership positions had very little to do with me personally and more to do with, hey, here is what young people can do. Here is the way that we can lead, and we need to have a seat at this table. We don't need to be listened to and patted on the back, and then all of a sudden our ideas kind of watered up and thrown out with the garbage. We need to be respected because while our older or more seasoned Lions have some very insightful things to say and have ways in which their experiences are really relevant, the younger Leos and younger Lions also have experiences that are important too. And when we bring those again to the table, we can form a stronger team. And so I encourage you all, we need more young leaders. We need more young leaders, not just in Leos, but as you turn 18 and move on to a university or a technical school or get involved in your community, we need more young Lions to kind of step up and show people across the world what young people are doing and that we can do it.
What is your advice for all young Leos and Lions who want to take a leadership role?
I think my number one thing is don't be scared. I was absolutely terrified at 20 or so years old to even consider running for district governor. I mean, y'all, you gotta think more than 40 clubs, more than 1,000 Lions that are all looking to you for answers. And being 20, 21, 22, 23, leading a multiple district at 25 and having to just lead that and manage that and facilitate that. And honestly, the average age of Lions is actually 60 years old. So most of the people that I was working with on a day-to-day basis as governor and council chair were old enough to be my grandparents. And I sat down with Jimmy Ross, who some of you all may know, who's a past international president out of Texas. And I was telling him that I was scared. And I was scared to run for governor. I was scared to step up to that leadership position. And he said, Brandon, you are always going to be scared. You're always going to feel like it's not the right time. And when you finally do feel like it's the right time to be governor and you finally feel like you have the time on your plate and you can dedicate it, he said, it's going to be too late. Your passion's going to be gone. You're going to be too old. Your fire's going to be gone. He said, hop in there and go for it. And I took his advice and honestly was terrified every single day, but just kind of the courage to be able to get involved and to lead, and find that there are people all across the world who are invested in me. And I can't tell you how many times I would pick up the phone and call Mahesh, or I would send Mahesh an email, and he would bounce ideas off of me and give me advice. And I know it's scary, but you just have to have the courage to lead and to try it. And ultimately, you're going to fail along the way. So the courage to be okay with failure too.
How can we get our peers or more senior people to see us as leaders?
I think that's a great question. You have to prove yourself. So just thinking that because you're young and walking into something, kind of kicking the door down, saying, hey, this is the way we're going to do it and this is the way it's going to be, is not going to work. You have to work, and you have to prove yourself, and you have to outwork and actually work harder than someone who is 30 or 40 years your senior. You see, just because of being young, it's kind of a blessing because we have the energy and the passion, but it's also somewhat of a curse because, like I said, if you're 20 years old, someone that is 60 years old, in Lions, you could have done the exact same work and had the exact same successes, etc. And if you were to run against them in a Lions Club election, you would lose in a landslide. And that is simply because a lot of people in our association are discounting young people. And so you have to be prepared to show them and outwork your competition and outwork everyone else in the field. When I took over as district governor, I said, listen, we are going to beat every single record that our district has had in recent history. End of discussion. That's what we have to do for young people to have a seat at this table and to finally be recognized. We had nearly double the attendees at a district convention that we've ever had. Well, let me rephrase that we've had in the last 20 or so years that we've had record of. We chartered a new Lions Club. We chartered a new Leo Club. We almost quadrupled our annual donations and annual giving to Lions Clubs International Foundation. Our district performed more service than ever before. Our district grew in membership, and every single record you could imagine as a district, we blew it away. And that wasn't because of anything that I did. I wish I could say that I was out there and I recruited every one of those new members. No, it was because as a district, we sat down and we said, listen, we have something to prove just as a district. You all elected me as your district governor. Now we as a team have something to prove to the world that young people can do this and we can succeed, and we outworked everybody. And I'm so proud to be a Lion and to have been a district governor, and proud of the district that I got the opportunity to lead for a year.
And all right, before I think that brings us to the end of today. It was a great session. I think Ishan will be closing us out, but thank you so much, Brandon, for your time. It was an excellent presentation, and I'll echo everything that the chat is saying. Thank you so much for attending. I think this is a great installment to our series. Ishan, before we close it out for today, I'd like to thank you so much for hosting today. And I think you facilitated the session very well. And if you have any further questions for Brandon, I think he said his contact information. He's great to work with, and I've had great experiences with him, and I think he's a great leader who will really help you out. But just before Ishan takes over, I know I'm stealing your time, Ishan. We have a great session next week. As you may know, next week on Saturday, December 5th, we have International Leo Day. There's a great presentation from the International Association on Saturday in the morning, just celebrating all the great work that Leos have done. And there's going to be a great party and an after party hosted by our Leo Lion board liaisons. So look after that. And then next week, we also have a great session celebrating within our series, celebrating Leo Day. I think Ishan, if you want to talk a little bit more about that and close us out for the day.
So first of all, I'd just like to thank Leo Lion Brandon Johnson for such a good presentation. It was really informative. And I'd also like to thank Leo Otis Chitness and Lion Mahesh Chitness for organizing such a good leadership series. And like Otis was saying, next Saturday on December 5th, there's an International Leo Day, which you should go check out. And then on Sunday, we're actually hosting our own celebration for International Leo Day with games. And it's going to be a great experience, and you should also check that out.
So thank you all for coming, and see you next week.